Hello, everyone. Welcome again to another installment of SBIFF Film Talk. My name is Audrey, and I am joined today by Heather Edwards, the writer and director of SkyWest and Crooked. Thank you so much for being here, Heather.
So happy to be here. Such an honor.
Yeah, this is so exciting. I love your film and so happy to get to
Aw.
revisit it. Can you take us back? Just give us a bit of background. And do I remember correctly that this was your directorial debut, right? Your first or
Well, no, it's my second. It's my
your
second
second?
short.
Okay.
So hopefully we'll be back having this conversation and you can say, is this your debut as a feature filmmaker?
There we go. Okay, so tell me about the background, how this project sort of came together and what inspired it, all of that.
Well, as you know, when you do things, you learn things. And so I had completed my first short film and it was a trying process. And I was telling someone else's story and I I learned a lot through that process. It wasn't an easy process, but I learned a lot and I'm very grateful and I'm grateful for everyone that was involved. And it turned out to be a beautiful film. But it gave me self-reflection of who am I as a storyteller? What do I want to say and how do I want to say it? And so this short film I feel like is sort of my debut in that I got to write the script entirely by myself and I got to build a team entirely by myself, and it was such a rich and rewarding experience. And it is based on a true story from my childhood. um, if you've had a chance to see the film, anyone that's joining us, I hope you have. um, Pretty much everything in there is true, except the conversations have to be created. But my father had said he was leaving for a business trip, and it had been about 3 years. And I went on a school field trip during the middle of the day. And there was my dad on a Wednesday morning having a cocktail with some woman I didn't know. And that day turned out to be one of the greatest days of my life as he taught me how to bowl. It's simple as that. It was just a very, very beautiful, memorable moment for me. And I wanted to tell more about the story of what it means to be a parent, because I've since grown, obviously, and I'm a mother of two daughters, and that is my greatest joy. I say being their mother and then a filmmaker is underneath that. And and so I guess that's the vital message for me, is the honor and the richness of being a parent. And this short is trying to explain what you miss when you're not an active, engaged parent.
Hmm. Yeah, that's what I like about it tonally, I think, is that there is that balance of sadness but levity, and that great memory as you describe it definitely comes through. You do see this really sweet parental relationship um in that moment, and so balancing that.
That's
um
exactly, thank you so much for saying that, because um people are like, do you like dramas? Do you like comedy? Well, I like telling rich, authentic stories. And isn't that life? Isn't
mhm.
life where, the sad and the bitter intersects with the happy and enthusiastic moments or rich moments? And so that was, you know, people had thought, and then my producers who were incredible, but there was this question of like, we can't end it on a happy note, because then that's not telling this the message I'm trying to tell. But and truly at that moment, it really was the happiest day of my life. You would think like I never saw him again for a long time, but time is precious, and to be doted on and get your full attention of your parent is one of the most gratifying, encouraging things that can happen to a young person. So we kind of balanced the the heaviness and the lightness that comes with being a human.
Yeah, something that it's funny, in my last film talk, therapy got brought up, so I'll bring it up again because I feel like it's
Okay.
relevant. But we'll just a conversation I had with my therapist at one point that came to mind when I rewatched this, where she was talking about, when you look at someone's actions where they do something really careless or really hurtful, maybe, but it's mixed in where it's, they're clearly not trying to hurt you, but the action is so clearly hurtful that it's like, why do they do that? Why do, and when you start to understand that process of like, well, there's often things going on with them that make it so it's difficult for them to do that, or that they
Right.
have to do that. And so to accept this, or to kind of have peace about these things, we look at them and realize what they're capable of. And she was talking about, how with a little kid, you don't expect a 7-year-old to do brain surgery. You don't bring a 7-year-old to do, that's not what they do. That's not their story. And I feel like that really came to mind when I was when I was rewatching this with Matt's character, because I think you see the limits of that character, of him giving and receiving love. That's sort of what
Okay.
I
You're like
wanted to, oh no.
totally like, I haven't had anyone like talk to me about this and like really strike a nerve with me. And this has been going on for years. So thank you,
Oh,
Audrey, for this moment. But first of all, I could talk the entire session about Matt Jones. Like,
mm.
can we have a film talk just about Matt Jones?
Yes, that's next.
But and Matt's so related to the character, and it's I'm a little bit stumbling on words because you caught me a little bit in my
Sorry.
emotion, but um as the children have so much to give and so much unconditionally to give, and that at the same time they're so very wise, but we still grow up with these scars of like taking it personally. And if we had been more, and if we'd been better, or we'd been more interesting or smarter, it would be different. And what I love about our film Sky West and Crooked is that I feel like at the end, you really do see that this little girl took the moment as as a beautiful experience, but that she was still her kind, confident self, and didn't leave there cowering or wondering where her strength was. That she actually gained something from it, that she learned something from it. And um, we're actually working on developing it into a feature, and I'm so glad you brought this up, Audrey, because that's one of the most, it's almost a cliche of kids feeling like maybe they were responsible for a divorce, or they weren't enough to keep the family together. And we have um so many themes going on in the zeitgeist right now, that one of the most common threads amongst, it doesn't matter what race, sexuality, creed, whatever it is that you are, we all experience the heaviness of a single parent family. And so that's what I hope we can bring to the feature, is like talking about the magnitude and the way we get through it with love and grace.
Yeah, that's so beautiful. And I would love to talk about Matt, because I feel like I remember too, from when you were at the festival, that he brought a lot to the role himself. And I think, it's easy to watch, and of course we can be mad at his character for, abandoning his daughter in this moment. But the way that it ends with the song, and we kind of get that in his performance as well, we get that, like I was saying, we get to see that limitation. We get to see a sense of like, well, this is what this guy is kind of capable of, it seems, and you see the weight of it on him, I think, in that song, which is
I'm
really what I
so
loved
proud of
about
you,
it.
Audrey. I love the terminology you're using about someone being capable of, because this is the process that we go through as children with parental issues or any kind of major figure issues, is like, we have to understand that everyone's only capable of so much. They're not capable of what they may not do things the way you would do it, or maybe another parental figure would do it. And we have to get to the point of acceptance of this is the best they can do. And Matt understood that in more ways than I can tell. And then He just took the ball with the song, and that performance was live at the end of the film. It was a
Mm,
song that my father wrote for me and my brother and my sister,
mm.
and I had heard about it for years. Friends and family members would say, "Hey, did you hear your song your dad wrote for you?" And no, no, what's the song? You have to remember, I'm like, a 8, 9 year old kid. And finally, I was precocious enough to bug people, and it was told, well, your father sang it once live, and it was so sad he would never sing it again.
Oh.
So um, Matt, I feel like, took everything that that song was meant to be and all the pain that my father would have probably had performing it. And he just laid it all out in front of the camera. And I mean, no matter if I ever get to make anything else again, that was probably the most cathartic, rewarding thing that could have ever happened to me.
Oh, I love that. That's so beautiful. Um, yeah, it's funny too. I over Christmas, I think around Christmas time, I like to have a TV show to keep me company sometimes when I'm doing chores. And I landed on Breaking
Yes,
Bad. I and seeing Matt pop up after having seen him in this, it really punched like the goofiness of his character so much. I was
girl.
laughing out loud.
If I challenge anyone, go stream a couple, go IMDb Matt, look at what episodes he's in, because he's not in all of them, sad face, but the ones that he's in, watch those, then go watch our short film, and you will see what I call Matt. I say Matt is a Ferrari of an actor, and I have been on many sets with many experienced actors, and I'm going to, if I can say one thing during this film talk, is Matt Jones is a Ferrari. He is the top of his game. And anybody out there that's listening that's going to make a film, if you have a role, you need to engage Matt, because he will blow your mind. There is no gear that he doesn't have and no tempo that he doesn't have. Okay.
Amazing. If Matt sees this, we love you, Matt. As if. Well, who knows? Let's talk a bit about his co-star in this cast. Working with a young actress, working with young actors can pose challenges, and of course,
This is for Vivian.
Vivian, yes. Can you tell us a bit about casting her and working with her and their chemistry, which is so good?
So good. So what happened was, Osbrink Talent, a child agency, was helping me in casting the role. We did our initial casting session, and they gave me a bunch of headshots. Vivian was one of the headshots. We taped everything. We were going over callbacks. And I kept telling my producer partners, who are my biggest heroes and champions, can we just insert David and Kevin Linky? They're part of my team, which we call as Gemini Team Go. And I kept saying, well, we need to call back Vivian. I think Vivian's the one. And finally they were like, Heather, you never saw Vivian. You just saw her picture. She didn't come to the initial calls because I think she was working. Shocker. So we ended up having her come to the callback. And it was weird because it was like destiny. She comes in and they're like, because I kept saying, I think she's the one, think she's the one. They're like, you never met her. I'm like, I didn't. And so she comes back for a callback, and it was just a home run. And then on top of how much she resembles Matt, because we did the first call, we got Matt on board, and then we wanted to do the callbacks based upon, obviously you want to like make someone that's kind of looks familial to your lead. And so that was Vivian. And then on set, this little girl, I believe she was 9 at the time, such an attuned listener. If you rewatch the film and you watch her gaze and the time and breath that she takes from letting, because Matt ad libs a lot, and she just rolled with it. I wish I could, like,
Mm.
we could watch the film and I go, right there's an ad lib, and look at Vivian. um she just did a tremendous job of staying in character and telling the story from the point of view of Chippy, or that's the nickname we gave her.
Mm. Yeah, she's fantastic. Did they have any sort of prep work together, or was it just kind of a get out there and go and shoot it? No prep.
Zero prep, zero prep. But
Wow.
um, Vivian is an exceptional actress. And I even told her, in the casting process, like, um, I'm a parent of an actor, and it's important to get lots of times you don't get a job for it could be a million different reasons. It's not because you weren't the strongest actor in the room. So it was really important to me to look her in the eye and say, you are an exceptional actress. Whatever happens, you're an exceptional actress. Luckily for me, it worked out. She came on board, and she just was so willing to listen. That's obviously the greatest thing, is listen and take direction. And then you add the grace and warmth that Matt has. And it was just, this thing that was able to click, and we were able to just run with it. Because, as a short film, shocker, you don't have all the time and money in the world. And so you're just like, you jump off a cliff, you got to swim, and they did it together. And I mean, what do you say? It was just magic.
Yeah. Another, changing gears a little bit, another thing that stuck out to me rewatching it is how the look. I love the look and the color to this film. And it is technically a period piece. So can you tell us a bit about, well, not period, but it's,
Right.
not
It's
contemporary.
70s. I think that's period.
Yeah,
You're
it's a
not
decade.
offending this old broad.
I love it. Yeah, can you tell us about making that look? And again, like you said, short film, you don't have all the time and money in the world, so tackling something that's not of a current decade, there's some juggling to do there. Can you tell us a bit about that?
Well, I love period. I love the 70s. I love the colors of the avocados and the oranges and the blues and all that thing. So I got a little bit of an issue with that. Also, it takes technology out, which I really enjoy in film a lot of the time. So we searched for a bowling alley that didn't have, the digital screens and the digital monitors, something that had been untouched. And so we found this bowling alley in Montrose. And that's a difficult place. Not the bowling alley was wonderful, but filming in Montrose was difficult. So if people want to message, or you can find me on, I think, on your Instagram. You can ask me questions about filming in Montrose, and I can expound upon that. But so we filmed in this vintage bowling alley, and then on top of that, our stylist, our costumer, Jenna Helfant, she's just exceptional, and she found these pieces that were, she's so good about creating the vibe of the era without it being so like on the nose, that it just seems like it really came out of someone's closet. And that's just something you can't teach. You just have that gift, and that's Jenna. And then after all that said and done, our cinematographer, Shane Bruce Johnson, like, captured everything the way it should be and lit everything the way it should be. And then post, which is might be where you're kind of talking about the colorization, was Mark Todd Osborne, which is MTO coloring. I might be sorry, Mark, if I'm messing up your company name, but he did all the color correction, and we had given him like the man who fell from earth, like these kind of poppy color, but yet it's kind of oversaturated, but then also kind of subdued. And that's where we kind of got the style from all of it. Oh, and don't forget the production designer, Robert Brecko. He's from Berlin. He's the shit. Sorry. And how he transformed like every little bit into something so authentic on no money. So there's the team.
The team.
Yeah.
That's how it was done, is the great team.
Right. When you people have really get it and do their homework. Yeah.
Yeah. So my brain keeps going blank because I'm in the midst of, as we were talking about before, prepping for our upcoming
What is the first
festival.
day? What is the first day? Tell us, what's the first day of the festival?
The March 31st.
Okay, you got a little bit of time,
Yes, but
but it's
yeah.
the
So
it's the crack time for
it's like
programming.
finals. It's the college finals,
Yeah,
is equivalent of where we are.
which makes
So,
it even more so why me and my team, Gemini Team Go, are so grateful that you
oh,
like let us come in as you guys are ramping up. So thank you for remembering
yeah.
us.
Well, and we were so lucky to get to have you at the festival just before all of this started. It's kind of like a reunion of like, hey,
Sorry about my
remember
dogs.
seeing? Oh, it's okay.
You know, we've been saying, this short film, we hoped to be our catalyst into the next step, which most short filmmakers are making short films because they're trying to ascend to a feature film. And we had had high hopes because of the film, the performances, the story. And because of the pandemic, a lot of things didn't pan out the way you thought they would. And let's face it, when it comes to movie making in Hollywood, nothing ever really pans out the way you think it's going to. Um, but we had a lot of ambition for it. And what we came with, what our takeaway was from this year, we didn't get what we expected, but we were so grateful because we realized the best festival, the most
Oh,
prestigious festival to get into, that was the last of live showings, was Santa
right.
Barbara. And we're like, oh my gosh, there was an angel looking over us that we got to play there and we got to have that experience because basically everything going forward didn't happen. And so what's so sweet about this moment, Audrey, that you're giving us in the festival is, we've kind of ended our year with the film, so to speak, and to end up where we started and
Mm.
feeling like we're getting a feather in our cap because once again, one of the most beautiful film festivals, Santa Barbara International Film Festival, has acknowledged us once again. And that's the fuel that makes us go like, we can do this again and we should try again because we're seen.
Oh. Well, thank you. That is so flattering. I really appreciate that as a programmer who spends a lot of time watching a lot of movies
It
and trying
really,
to,
really, it really matters. And
yeah.
we appreciate people like you.
Oh, thank you. So tell me then about, I always love asking, after completing this project, what was the wisdom that you kind of gleaned through this whole experience that you would pass on to, a filmmaker looking to do something similar, like the advice, that,
Um,
yeah.
my advice is to not rush, to set
Mm.
goals. Like I kept putting our production in the calendar, in our Google Calendar. We get notifications and we'd move it. There's no penalty to move it. We kept putting the goal on the calendar, but it needed to be right. And when I say needed to be right is make sure you have the right team and involved, because if you rush and you don't have the right team involved, you essentially are going to make a subpar project. You're not going to make the thing that you really wanted to make. And is that worth it? Because you got to
Mm.
do it maybe a couple weeks or months sooner. So waiting for the right cast. I mean, really, once we got Matt, that was kind of the linchpin that we were ready to go, and he had a window in his calendar. And so
Mm.
find out what the most key elements are to your script and make sure those are all dialed in before you, like I said, jump off the cliff and do this. And I think that's pretty miraculous of what you can do with time and money if you have the right team.
Mm. Yeah, that's a big theme here is team. Get the good team.
I don't,
And
you're probably too
yeah.
young to remember, but growing up, there was always this kind of visual of a cartoon, like a Saturday morning Looney Tunes, where it's a picnic and there's a half of a watermelon and all the little ants are carrying the watermelon into the ant hole. And I always liken filmmaking to that. Like, you've got what you want to say, your stars and your director, and then you've got, a grip down here. I don't see it that way. I see it as like we're all just ants trying to get it over the finish line, right?
Yeah, I love that. And that something I was actually talking about with a fellow programmer. We were talking about auteur theory, and I even saw something come up recently. I saw a great article that was saying now is it time to abandon this auteur theory, this hierarchical, structure, this old school way of looking at film where the director is the god of the film and everything, there's the hierarchy below them. So yeah, just as you say that, that brings to mind that conversation. And do you have any thoughts about that? Because I feel like I'm
I
getting that
do,
sentiment from
because
filmmakers a lot.
I think that you can't overemphasize listening. Of course, you're on a schedule and you got to keep going, and so you have to be quick um, to listen and be able to pivot, because lots of times what you have in your head and the idea you have in your head, and then when you're executing with the constraints, because there's always constraints, someone might have a better idea than you. And so me and the Linky brothers, we just agree that the best idea leaves the room. Like,
Mm.
don't be too precious, don't be too proud to not listen. And listen doesn't always mean that it's a better idea, but at least you've taken everyone's opinion into account and you say, okay, we've heard everything, and we think this is the best way to move forward. And I feel like if people are heard, and then you move forward in whatever strategy you do, I think you get the full support. And you need all the ants, you know, moving the watermelon.
Right. Perfect. I love that image. That's great. So tell us about yeah, just to wrap up, tell us about this journey you're on now. So you are taking this project forward, in a sense, working on this feature, and um what yeah, tell us about the next steps for
Okay,
you.
well, I'm going to be honest. I mean, you're never going to not get me honest. You would think with a pandemic and everyone being home and everyone having more alone time, that I would have cranked out this feature. And to be honest, and I've talked to a lot of creatives. Um, it's been a trying time to be creative. And I've beat myself up on that like, "Oh, you had all this time, you should have had that done plus two other scripts." And I think ultimately what I said about making a project is that you got to make sure it's right. And in writing is a precarious dark shadow that chases you, and it's a very isolating, hard thing, and takes a lot of discipline. And I have that, and I have been writing, but it's not where I needed to be to say, like, hey, anyone listening, we're good to go in about 90 days. But with that said, I feel very inspired by the feedback that we got from the short. I feel very confident that we can create something beautiful and bring maybe a story that's a little bit more universal to every type of person that walks the planet, about what it's like to experience the loss and loneliness of an absent parent. And so that's what I'm focusing on. But then on the other side, I am with a team called Gemini Team Go. I mentioned the Linky brothers. We have several scripts out in development, and I think lots of irons in the fire, from television to film. And follow our Instagram, and we'll keep you abreast. But I think that Gemini Team Go might become like the next, let's say, black market or something like that. Like, I think it's going to be a name that you will recognize in a few short years.
Awesome. You are not even the first person on Film Talk to bring up that. I feel like I should have been more creative in the pandemic, but it's totally a thing. It's
That
totally a
makes me
thing.
feel so much better.
I mean, even on Film Talk, I'm trying to remember who definitely talked about that. If not in the Film Talk, in the few minutes before we started going live, I've heard that. So, yeah, there's solidarity in this film community that we're all a part of. Yeah, so well, thank you so much for joining and getting to talk about the film again.
I
And
appreciate you and the festival so much. So thank you.
oh, thank you. Well, it was great seeing you, and take care, and we'll look forward to that feature.
Yes. Yeah,
Awesome.
2022 maybe.
All right. Well,
Okay,
take
thank
care. Thanks,
you.
Heather. Bye-bye.
Bye.